Okay, so like I said, the last quiz seemed to be pretty good. I don't know. I'm in great hopes that you guys really actually understood it, because I went to the inactive and active, and most of the questions are 70% or above if you got them correct. So I didn't want to go pull those and overtalk you, but I pulled the two that were a little less. And I think number 2, that one, the sum of 3 consecutive integers is negative 54, which is the smallest. I'm going to assume and bet your mistake was exactly what I called out in our live class when we were doing these, is that you chose the wrong negative number, because it's very normal for you guys to miss that as far as students across the board. Number 1, I think it's just the inequality conversation likely, but also I pulled, because there was no like huge discrepancy in some of the questions, 2 EOC questions that are review. One of them, I think your brain would explode if you saw it on the piece of paper for most students, but we're going to start practicing those as much as often, at least once a week, and they're going to be scary looking because they're just scary looking. If you understand and practice them, that won't be the end of the world at the end of the day. Also, I want to show you as many ways as possible that you can use your TI 83 or 84 and or Desmos, because you do have access to Desmos on your EOC, to get around some of the math if you're panicking and you're freaking out along the way. So to use that calculator to your advantage. It is a great calculator on the Desmos, as we've talked about. I will say, after giving the ACT yesterday, and I may or may not have spoken to the Math 1 you guys about this, but I would try to use your TI 84 some, not because it's your only option, but your ACT and your SATs, if you happen, you're going to take the ACT. If you happen to choose to take the SAT, though, I have a lot of students right now with a lot of anxiety because they don't have access to Desmos. So as much as we want to use it to our favor and love it, we don't want to lean on it too hard, because you do still have a handful of very important tests that at this point it's not integrated in. You guys are freshmen, so you probably have a little bit of window of time, and they're saying eventually that it will be integrated in, but we'd rather be prepared. And obviously, it's not that you won't have a calculator with you in the future, as they used to say when we were in school, that one day you won't have a calculator, which is complete crap, because obviously we always have a calculator, but you don't want to be so dependent on one that you can't use the others. Because there is a chance that you have one kind and not the others. As long as you have a computer, Desmos is available, again, unless it is a test. But we want to be well-rounded in using all of our resources. So number 1, is negative 3 a solution to the inequality? All that's saying is it going to make this statement true? And the statement is x is less than or equal to 4x plus 18. So word problem, think of this as actually a statement, like we're asking a question. So when I plug in that negative 3, when it says solution, that is always going to be an x value. And this is a little early maybe, but x, the solution, some other words, just vocabulary, because the more you can hear it, the better. They're going to be called zeros along the way. They'll be called roots, and this is more of a quadratic lesson. But if you can just tack all these words together to where you read any of them and understand that they are all the same thing, the sooner the better, because vocabulary seems to be a big hang-up for a lot of people. So zeros, roots, solutions, x-intercepts. And again, this is more quadratic, where they will use these words, but it is the solution. So just so you see the parallels between all the conversations and those vocabulary words. So solutions, x values. So is negative 3 a solution to the inequality? So we're going to plug in negative 3 in the place of x. Whoops. And then we're just going to solve it. So negative 3 is less than or equal to. Positive 4 times a negative 3 gives me what number? And make sure you're paying attention to positive negatives. This is very easily an active question. It was on the active form of our test, but we're going to multiply that 4 times a negative 3 and get, yes. But I love you guys giving me answers no matter what, even if they're wrong. That's great. I still like it, because that means I see where your brain's going and I can redirect. So negative 12, if I owe you $12, and then I pay you, that's the add, I pay you 18. Do I owe you anything more, or are you in the plus? And then if you are in the plus, or I owe you more, how much more do I owe you, or are you in the plus? So negative 12 and 18 should be Yes, good. Positive 6. And that's what I mean by in the plus, because I feel like positive and negatives give some students some anxiety, but if I'm owing you money quickly, if you start thinking that way, you probably aren't going to let me slide when if I still owe you money. So is negative 3 less than or equal to 6? Negative 3 is less than or equal to 6, because 6 is over here, negative 3 is over here, so it's going to be on this side, and this is our less than side. And I mean, a large number of people got this question wrong. And I'm not exact. I can't make a good guess as to why. It is negative 3 is less than or equal to 6. It's not equal to, but it is less than. And remember, that inequality means it could fit either. So any number to that side. Now, I'm pretty sure, because this was on a calculator active portion of our test, let's go to Desmos. Sorry, don't mind my puppers. He hears something. Hang in there, Eli. And I may be wrong, but I feel like it's worth a shot because, like I said, Desmos is very helpful. This one, I would not necessarily go to my TI 83 or 84 because I don't feel like it would give you the information, and you would have to change the formatting. Of course, it's going to take this long to think. All right, so usually you have to change the format of your equation, but we're going to try this and see if, there we go, we can get an answer to our question by using visual, like if you're a visual learner. All right, perfect. So is negative 3 a solution? So in this case, the solution would be in the colored portion. So this would be what it would look like if you were to solve it. And they're going to move it over, solve for y equals, because this is our y equals formatting of this. This is a bit of a mess. But negative 3 is in the shaded region, so that means it is a solution. So everything that's in the shaded region of inequalities is a solution. And again, it said is negative 3, and negative 3 is right here. Negative 3 is in the shaded. So that's another way to do it if you don't want to like plug and chunk and like test that point. Algebraically testing is always a great option though as well. All right, so the sum of 3 consecutive even integers. Now, even is important because that means we have to know it's the 2, 4, 6. We need 3 of them. We have to start with x, x plus 2, and then x plus 4. Remember, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 is for even and odd integers. You're adding that you're adding that even number, no matter if we're doing even or odd, because odd numbers are every 2, just like even numbers are every 2. Then it says the sum. So the sum, so we're going to add these together, is equal to 54. Now we have to solve it. Combine your like terms. We have 3 x's. 2 plus 4 is 6 equals 54. Now we're going to solve it. We need to solve for x. So that's 3x. What am I going to move first to get x by itself? Yes, how am I going to move 6? Good, we're going to subtract 6 from both sides, right? Because that'll make this a 0 and go away. So we have 3x equals 48. 6, 7, 8, yep, 48. And then how do I get that 3 off that x? Yes, divide. Good, because that is multiplication. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. Oh, is anybody going to tell me where I messed up? There's a mistake. Can you find it already? Negative 54, which is going to change our 48, so it's not 48. What's a negative 4 and a negative 6? A negative 54 and a negative 6. Sorry, I didn't say that right at all. We're going to end up with 60 right here. If I owe you 54 and then I borrow, yep, good job, and I borrow 6 more, I'm going to owe you 60. We're going to divide by 3. like you guys said, so that part we were good. That's going to become a 1x equals negative 60 divided by 3 is going to be a negative 20. Now, that's the answer choice that everyone picked. But 3 consecutive even, so if x is negative 20, what is negative 20 plus 2? Ooh, this question might have been bad in the quiz. I need to go check it now. Yep, it is a negative 18. Good. Negative 20 plus 4 is going to give me yes, absolutely. Negative 16. Ooh, I think actually it might have been bad in the quiz. It might have had the wrong one in the answer key. I'm going to have to go back and look at that. That'll make me, hopefully we all got it right. So negative 20 is the smallest, whereas negative 16 is going to be the largest because it's closest to 0. We're starting to get back to owing people less money. They're going to do this and they're going to ask you what is the sum of the 3 integers. So then add all the 3 together. Trying to think of other ways that they could make this any more weird. I think that's it. All right. Well, good call. Like I said, hopefully everybody did a great job. All right. EOC released questions. So if it helps, and I will send these out. Sorry, I made them sort of late. It was an afterthought. This is literal equations, which is every freshman's favorite. Actually, it's like every math student's favorite, as in not. So literal equations. So we are isolating a variable, isolating a thing, solving for a thing. This is a lot of fluff, a lot of extra stuff. All of this does not matter in this said equation. What matters is the equation itself. So we want to make sure we're looking at this guy. And then what format we're putting it in. So which formula can be used to determine D? Determine D is what you should be able to understand. If it doesn't make sense, because it then says given K, Q, A, and T, maybe you get confused because it named all the variables. Look at your answer choices. So we're trying to get it in D equals form. So D equals. So we need to isolate the D. Don't worry about this. That just means summation. Not a big deal in this moment. But it is, just think of it as another variable, okay? So if I have K equals Q D over AT, I want to get D by itself. What is the first thing that you would do to get D by itself? Because D is in this fraction. It's in a fraction up here. It's in the numerator. What might you do first? Or do we have any ideas? Yes. Good. We're going to multiply to get rid of the fraction first because we have to get D without as many things attached to it as possible. So we're going to multiply by the AT. And I'm calling it AT again just so you realize how simple it really is. And now, as much as we don't like writing things out step by step, trust me, you will like it better when you do. Especially for literal because you'll realize how easy it is. Now I need D by itself. So what's attached to D and how am I going to get it gone? Like how will I undo it? What will be the inverse of Q times D? Yes. So we're going to divide by Q, and then these guys go away. So we end up with D equals our K times A theta T, or AT, summation T. This is not good because minus Q wouldn't have worked because it was attached by multiplication. If it had been Q plus D, that would be correct. I am really not sure what they did to this guy to make this such a mess, besides make stuff up. So this is a really bad answer. This one is not even remotely close. And again, I'm not sure how they would have necessarily got this one either, except they did keep everything together, which is good. But our answer would be C. And remember, the K being in the front versus the K being in the back, as I wrote it, doesn't matter because it's multiplication. 2 times 4 is 8. 4 times 2 is 8. So multiplication, the order of the numbers or the order of the symbols are not detrimental to the answer. They're not differential in the answer. All right, Mr. Chan asked students from 2 classes the number of hours of sleep they got each night. Class 1 and Class 2. They have decimals. Again, I think people will panic because it's a hot mess in the way it looks. Don't freak out. Mean is average. It's the X bar or bar over X, what we call it X bar, in your TI-84. Standard deviation is going to be the SX in your calculator, which I'll show you in my TI-84 where you find it. If you have TI-84, your app is working, I would open it and really practice using it, because in my opinion, this is not as easy in Desmos as it is, because you have to know formatting and how to speak Desmos for these versus your TI-84. So if you want to open up your TI-84, did all of you guys get access to it? Did we end up finally making it work? It is an assignment tomorrow is why I'm asking. Or would you like me to send you that link again and we do that real quick? Like, make sure you have access. Absolutely. Because Madeline, I think you were running into issues. I did send you guys an email and I didn't hear back from you guys about it. Whoop. Come on. Oh no, I just closed our meeting. Whoops. Hi guys, I'm back. Sorry. Thanks. I look like I have no top of my head. All right, TI-84. Now, I am not sure why a lot of people, like Math 3 yesterday, we were working on this, they were getting an error, like, and I've been getting it on mine, and it says multiple instances active. I think it must run somewhere in the background, which I do probably need to find out from IT. Underneath the calculator, though, it does allow you to activate that opening. So it's in the chat box. You do want to use your school Gmail to log in through Google, because it's attached to your Google is how you have one. Let me know when you guys get in, and then we'll boogie on from there. A problem with the browser. Delete the front slash. Problem with the browser? Somebody share their screen for me, please. It'll just, and share your screen if you don't know how to do that, is down at the bottom. It has a square. Yeah, there we go. Unsupported. This browser is not supported. One or more issues might. Oh, you know what I bet it is? Malin, I bet it's because you're on your Apple. Are all of you on Apples? Okay, another instance of application already running. Go right underneath the calculator and hit activate this one, because that's what mine said too. So this is what mine looks like right now. And there's so much going on. Sorry. Oh, when I move underneath, and you can't see it because of all the fun tabs I have, make this instance active. But like I said, the sooner we can get you in there, the better, because there's just some things that are easier on the TI-84 than on Desmos because of formatting and like equations you have to memorize and the way you type them in, and it's just a lot easier. So on your calculator, you're going to hit stat, which is under the delete button. You're going to hit enter because that gives you, because it says edit. So we're going to edit. And we're going to put 5.5, all the data in the first class. It's running left to right. Pay attention to your commas versus decimals. And if they're hard to read, so it's 5, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 3 times. So 6.5 3 times. 7 twice. So 7, 7, and then 8. Then you're going to hit stat again. And you're going to right over to calc. So right arrow. And then you're going to hit enter on the 1-bar stats. And I'm not sure, I think yours looks exactly like mine. List 1, frequent calculate. I keep going. So you're going to hit all the way through. When it's blinking on calculate, that's like asking you to calculate. Then you're going to hit enter. So for class 1, our mean, or our average, is 6.35. The standard deviation, we're going to use SX, that's 88.88. And then we have to do the same thing for class 2. So you can go back to stat, edit. Now, if you're fairly you understand what we're doing, what buttons we're pushing, then you could also use your L2 and do that along the way. And it would save you some back and forth. Sorry about that. I just gonna get that to not keep beeping in my ear. Beautiful. You can use your L2 and put your second list of data in. Otherwise, we can clear it, and then we're going to put in 5, 5.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7 twice, so 7, 7, 7.5, 8, 8, 9. One call out I will say is make sure that you're hitting enter after every number. If you just put them in across, it'll put it in the first box, and you need every number going down in your table. I'm trying to think through things I've watched students do, and then they get frustrated. Make sure you have the same number of data. That L1 11 means I'm sitting in the 11th spot. It's blank, so that means there should be 10 pieces of data. So if you count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're good there. We're going to hit stat again, right over to calc. 1-bar stat. That's going to give us all of our information once we get down to calculate and hit enter. So we have our mean of 7. So class 2 is going to be mean of 7. Standard deviation is going to be 1.202 if you wanted to go there, but no need, probably. This is also where you're going to see N is the number of terms that were in your list, your minimum, your Q1, your median, which is also Q2, your Q3, and your max. So the only thing missing in 1-bar stat would be your range, which you have to calculate. Your IQR, your interquartile range, is not there. And mode would probably be, thinking through my head, the only 3 things missing from this 1-bar stat list. So the types of questions they could ask you, this is it. Okay. So then our answer choices, class 1 has a larger mean. Class 1 does not have a larger mean, so we can go ahead and stop there. Don't even read the next part. Class 2 has a larger mean. It does. It has a 7. So that means these 3 are still good. Whoops. Sorry, class 1. C is gone. So now we're to a 50-50 shot. Even if you don't remember what standard deviation means, you don't know where it is on the calculator, you've just narrowed down your questions or your answer choices to 2, so you have a 50-50 shot at getting it right, even if you're just guessing. Very important. Super helpful, because you could also solve your mean. Remember, mean or average is add them all together, divide by the number of terms there, if you forget your calculator keystrokes. So as far as the standard deviation, this says class 2 has a larger mean and standard deviation. Class 2 standard deviation is 1.2 versus 88 cents. So $1.20 versus 88 cents. All decimals, if you think money, they make a lot more sense for most students. Versus class 2 has a larger mean, but smaller standard deviation, which is not the case. They are both larger for class 2. Very likely to be on your EOC. Definitely a question we should be able to get right once we get you into the calculators and if you can remember what buttons to push. Okay, so very easy. That's one in your pocket. You need 16 right to pass it. After that, we're just making better grades, better grades, better grades. All right? So one question for sure when you walk in the door, as long as we get you up and running on the calculator. So let me know if you run into issues with your calculators after tomorrow. Okay, so I didn't get into anything hard today as far as slope because I want to make sure you have the basis. This is what I sent out. All right, slope. Different words for slope, because this is another one of those words where they change it up in conversation, and there's not a real pattern. So one word's not better than the other. So slope can also be rate of change. You will see me write rate of change as ROC, just to save time and space. So rate of change, rise over run. And rise over run is really going to deal with graphs. That one I would say is pretty specific to a type of question. Slope, rate of change, right now that's all I got. But if we add those, all three of those are asking for the same thing. Okay? So if I'm looking at my graph, and my copy is a little gray as far as my boxes are concerned, you're just going to count from a good intersection point to another good intersection point. These graphs give you dots. You will not always see dots. Be very careful to find where it is actually crossing a perfect intersection point. So if you think of all these boxes as like downtown Southern Pines, like where it's gridded off, it's square. You want to be standing on a corner, like in the middle of the street, not running through a yard and then counting that way. So from dot to dot, in this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the up. So that's my rise. And then run. 1, 2, 3. That's to the left 3 since I started at the bottom. So that's a -3. If you're reading from left to right, maybe you even understand, because sometimes I just count 8, 3, and then I go back and look at my line and decide from left to right, is it going down or is it going up? So this is a negative line, or again, like I said, if you count to the left, then it's going to be a -3. If you started at the top dot and counted to the right 3, you would then count down 8, and so the 8 would be negative. And this is our run. So rise over run. And one of them or the whole fraction is negative. So the negative doesn't have to be on the 8 or the 3, or it can be in the middle. It's a formatting difference that could vary. But know that the fraction itself is negative because the line is negative. Rise over run. So I do have a lot of students that want to put X on top along the way. Here's my story. Have you ever played tag around a trampoline? Like where you're running around through the yard and playing tag with like cousins and sisters and brothers or somebody. And if you are, yes, trampoline, yes. So a trampoline's in the yard. So we have our trampoline, right? And we're playing tag. And maybe this only happened to me because I was short and squatty and pretty fat when I was young. And my brother was very agile and lean. And we would play around our trampoline all the time. But have you ever watched anybody like run to jump up on the trampoline and get hung on the side of it? It's really humorous if you haven't. And if I can find a video ever of me doing it from my parents, I will absolutely share it because it is spreading joy and laughter all over. But the idea is that if you're looking at X versus Y is long and skinny, like he's very tall and his arms are up and he's ready to jump, right? He's going to more easily jump on the top of your trampoline. And it's like I said, I got hung on the trampoline. I couldn't just jump up on it very fast, but I could get underneath it and my brother couldn't without bunking his head. So when I would use the trampoline sort of as my like safe, by the time he got underneath it to get me, I could run and be halfway across the yard. So you're short and squatty, wide, Miss Sigmund, underneath the trampoline, underneath the division bar, tall and skinny, bouncy on top, right, Eli? So Y is tall and skinny, always on top. Not mathematically sound, but you got to remember Y is on top. So Y is on top for rise over run. So rise is first, then run on the bottom. So again, number 2, we're going to go from good intersection to good intersection. So I rose 1, then I went 1, 2 to the right. So rise 1, run 2, I always double check, is this a positive line or a negative line? Because I'm the queen of leaving off negative slopes. This line is increasing to the right, so it's going to be positive. We are right at 9:30, so I'm going to skip the next two because hopefully that's not a problem. I'll try to make sure there's plenty of review on it. Finding the slope through points. This is, you will see it written like this. Don't panic. All that is saying is y minus y over x minus x. A lot of 8th grade teachers teach it y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. The reality is that 2 and 1 doesn't matter as long as whichever x value you start with or y value, that you start with that x value. So if I started in the second coordinate for x, I need to start in the second coordinate for y. All of that in my brain, as I tell stories about trampolines, is often easy for me to mess up. So, not super mathy. This is just my plan for slope. I stack, that's my first coordinate, second coordinate. And now these look like basic elementary school math problems. Minus, minus. And I put a minus in both, and I usually use a different color pen until I get very, very comfortable because it's easy to mess up your negative negative. See where they have negative negative? So negative negative, this is going to turn this into a positive. So negative 6 plus 13 is going to give me 7. Negative 13 plus 17 is going to give me 4. This is my x values. These are my y values from each coordinate, right? Tall and skinny goes top. X goes on the bottom. All three, I mean, both ways are correct. Both ways are perfect. If you're great at solving for slope already, do it. If it's calculator active, you can put the graph in the 2 coordinates into Desmos and count up and over if counting is easier for you, if it is calculator active. If it's inactive, then you have to be able to stack them or subtract the y's over subtract the x's. Again, making sure whichever one, like if this is 2 and this is 1, when they teach y2 minus y1, it's going to be y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. The order is very, very important because it is subtraction. I like stack them, subtract them, y on top. Stack them, subtract them, y on top would be like, that's sort of my checklist for slope of 2 points.